German medium tanks didn't start as unstoppable war machines. From balanced early war designs to long-range tank killers that could dominate entire battlefields, German medium tanks tell the story of rapid adaptation under pressure. And in this video, we're going to break down every one of them. Panzer III Ausf J medium tank. The Panzer III Ausf J is one of Germany's core early war medium tanks, designed specifically to fight enemy armor. It was developed around 1941 and produced between 1941 and 1942, with large numbers built as part of the Panzer III series, making it widely available in early battles. It uses a crew of 5: commander, gunner, loader, driver, and radio operator. This full crew setup allows faster reaction time, better target tracking, and more efficient combat performance compared to smaller crew tanks. Its main weapon is the 50mm KWK-39L/60 gun. This gun has decent penetration for early engagements and performs well against light tanks and some early medium tanks. It is supported by two 7.92mm MG-34 machine guns, one coaxial and one hull-mounted, giving it solid anti-infantry capability. The tank reaches a top speed of around 40 km per hour, which is decent but not exceptional. Armor ranges from 30 to 50 millimeters, using rolled homogeneous armor. While not heavily armored, it can still resist light weapons and some early anti-tank fire from the front. The biggest advantage of the Panzer III Ausf J is balance. It's reliable, easy to control, and performs well in early combat scenarios. However, the weakness is scaling. As enemy tanks become stronger, the 50mm gun quickly loses effectiveness, especially against well-armored targets. Fun fact, the Panzer III was originally intended to be Germany's main anti-tank platform, while the Panzer IV had a different role. Tip: use it aggressively in early engagements, but transition to stronger tanks as soon as possible. Panzer IV Ausf II medium tank. The Panzer IV Ausf II represents a major turning point in German tank design. Introduced in 1942, it was developed as a response to heavily armored Soviet tanks. Production numbers were significant as it quickly became a key unit on the battlefield. It has a crew of 5, maintaining excellent coordination and efficiency. Its main weapon is the 75mm KWK-40L/43 gun. This long-barreled gun offers strong penetration and accuracy, capable of destroying early T-34s and other medium tanks at range. Secondary armament includes two MG-34 machine guns for infantry suppression. Speed is around 38 km per hour, slightly slower due to increased weight. Armor ranges from 30 to 50 millimeters, still relatively thin for a medium tank. The biggest advantage here is firepower. This tank can dominate mid-game engagements if used properly. However, survivability is still an issue. The armor cannot reliably withstand strong anti-tank fire. Fun fact, the long barrel upgrade was rushed after German forces encountered Soviet armor they couldn't penetrate. Tip: stay at medium to long range. Your gun is your biggest strength. Panzer IV Ausf G medium tank. The Panzer IV Ausf G builds on the F2 by improving both protection and consistency. Introduced in 1942, it saw large-scale production with over 1,600 units built. Crew remains 5, ensuring efficient battlefield performance. It uses the 75mm KWK-40 gun, often upgraded to the L/48 version, which offers improved penetration and better performance at range. It also carries two MG-34 machine guns for anti-infantry defense. Speed remains around 38 km per hour. Armor is significantly improved, with frontal protection reaching up to 80 millimeters using rolled homogeneous armor. The strength of the Ausf G is versatility. It can fight tanks, support infantry, and hold positions effectively, but it still has weaknesses. Flanking attacks and stronger anti-tank weapons can easily destroy it. Fun fact, this variant helped establish the Panzer IV as Germany's primary tank. Tip: use it as your main battle tank, control engagements, and avoid getting surrounded. Panzer IV Ausf H medium tank. The Panzer IV Ausf H is often seen as the peak of the Panzer IV series. Introduced in 1943, it was produced in large numbers, around 3,700 units. crew is still 5. It uses the 75mm KWK-40L/48 gun, which remains effective against most medium tanks. Speed is around 38 kilometers per hour, slightly reduced due to increased weight. Armor reaches up to 80mm with the addition of shirts and side skirts. These skirts provide extra protection against anti-tank rifles and certain projectiles. The biggest advantage is survivability. It can take more hits and stay in combat longer. However, mobility is reduced and it still struggles against heavy tanks. Fun fact, Scherzen were specifically designed to counter Soviet anti-tank rifles. Tip: use it as a frontline anchor, hold ground, and support other units. Panzer IV Ausf J, medium tank. The Panzer IV Ausf J is the final evolution of the series. Introduced in 1944, it was produced in large numbers under wartime pressure. Crew remains 5, but internal systems were simplified. It uses the same 75mm KWK-40L/48 gun, maintaining solid firepower. Secondary weapons include MG-34 machine guns for infantry defense. Speed is around 38 kilometers per hour, but overall performance feels slightly reduced. Armor layout is similar to the Ausf H, including shirts and protection. The advantage is availability and efficiency. It's easier to produce and still effective in combat, but it has clear drawbacks. The turret rotates slower due to the removal of the electric drive. Fun fact, this simplification allowed Germany to keep producing tanks despite resource shortages. Tip: avoid close-range combat. Play at range where turret speed matters less. Panther Ausf D, medium tank. The Panther Ausf D represents a massive leap in German tank design, and honestly, this is where things start to feel unfair if used correctly. It was introduced in 1943, right after Germany encountered the Soviet T-34, and produced in large numbers as an urgent response to that threat. The crew consists of 5 members: commander, gunner, loader, driver, and radio operator. This full crew setup gives the Panther excellent battlefield awareness, faster reload coordination, and overall smoother combat performance. Its main weapon is the 75mm KWK-42L/70 gun. This gun is one of the strongest in its class. High velocity, excellent penetration, and very accurate at long range. It can destroy most enemy tanks before they even get close. For infantry, it also carries 2 MG-34 machine guns, one coaxial and one hull-mounted. Speed is around 46 kilometers per hour, which is impressive for a tank of this size. Armor is where it really stands out. Up to 80mm on the front, but heavily sloped. That sloping significantly increases its effective protection, making frontal hits much harder to penetrate. The biggest advantage of the Panther Ausf D is long-range dominance. If you position it well, it can control entire sections of the battlefield. But it's not perfect. The side armor is much weaker, making it vulnerable to flanking attacks. Also, early Panther models had reliability issues, which can translate in-game as higher risk if misused. Fun fact, the Panther's design was directly influenced by the Soviet T-34, especially its sloped armor concept. Tip: always keep your front facing the enemy and avoid close-range fights. This tank is at its best when acting as a long-range sniper. Panther Ausf, a medium tank. The Panther Ausf A builds on the D variant and fixes many of its early problems, making it a much more reliable and dangerous vehicle overall. It was introduced later in 1943 and became one of the most refined versions of the Panther series. Like the Ausf D, it uses a crew of 5, maintaining excellent coordination and combat efficiency. The main weapon remains the 75mm KWK-42L/70 gun. This means you still get outstanding penetration, accuracy, and long-range performance. It can handle almost any tank it encounters if used correctly. Secondary armament includes MG-34 machine guns for dealing with infantry. Speed stays around 46 kilometers per hour, giving it strong mobility for repositioning and controlling engagements. Armor remains heavily sloped, with similar frontal protection of around 80mm, making it very hard to penetrate from the front. The advantage of the Ausf A is consistency. Compared to the D variant, it feels smoother, more reliable, and easier to use effectively in prolonged engagements. It still dominates at range and can dictate the pace of battle. However, the same core weakness remains: side armor. If enemies manage to flank you, the Panther becomes much easier to destroy. Fun fact, the Panther quickly gained a reputation as one of the most feared tanks of World War II due to its combination of firepower and armor. Tip: think of this as a battlefield controller. Hold key sight lines, keep distance, and never allow enemies to get around your sides. Panther Ausf G, medium tank. The Panther Ausf G is the final and most refined production version of the Panther series, representing the peak of Germany's medium tank design. It was introduced in 1944 and produced until the end of the war in 1945, with over 2,900 units built. By this point, Germany had already learned from earlier Panther variants and improved both production and battlefield performance. The tank uses a crew of 5: commander, gunner, loader, driver, and radio operator. This full crew setup ensures excellent coordination, faster reload times, and strong situational awareness in combat. Its main weapon is the 75mm KW K42L/70 gun. This gun is extremely powerful, with high velocity and excellent penetration, allowing it to destroy most Allied tanks at long range with accurate shots. For infantry, it is supported by 2 MG-34 machine guns, 1 coaxial and 1 hull-mounted, providing solid defensive capability. Top speed is around 46 kilometers per hour, giving it good mobility for repositioning and controlling engagements. Armor remains heavily sloped, with up to 80 millimeters on the front glacis, significantly increasing its effective thickness. Compared to earlier variants, the hull design was simplified but also slightly improved for better protection and production efficiency. The biggest advantage of the Panther Ausf G is its balance between firepower, armor, and reliability. It keeps the deadly long-range performance of earlier Panthers while being more stable and consistent in combat. However, the same core weakness still applies: side armor. If enemies manage to flank you, the Panther becomes much easier to destroy. Fun fact, the Ausf G introduced a redesigned hull shape that improved protection and simplified mass production during the final stage of the war. Tip: play it as a long-range controller, hold key sight lines, keep your front facing the enemy, and never allow flanking units to get close. German medium tanks evolved from balanced early fighters into precise long-range killers. Master positioning, and you control the entire battlefield.